Donald Trump has pudding leaking out of his ears. It has never been more obvious that Donald Trump is in a state of cognitive and physical decline because he's bringing attention to it every day. Every attempt by Trump to cover up his deterioration has completely backfired. So at this point, he's just embracing us, showing us every day that his brain doesn't work anymore. And he did by forgetting that he's president, forgetting everything really, in a moment of complete meltdown that led him to panic because he is so insecure and go on to attack a female reporter, because that's what Donald Trump does. He attacks women constantly. We are going to get into what was a just complete disaster, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into that moment in which Trump just forgot it all, I want to start with what he was so excited to announce, something that he always keeps in his melting mind, his tariffs, but it didn't go too well.
I'm delighted to announce this afternoon that the United States will be taking a small portion of the hundreds of billions of dollars we receive in tariffs. We are making a lot of money from countries that took advantage of us for years. They took advantage of us like nobody's ever seen. Our deficits are way down because of tariffs. I guess because of the election, because without the election you wouldn't have tariffs. You'd be sitting here losing your shirt. But we're taking in billions. We're really taking in trillions of dollars, if you think about it, Scott, because the real number is, when you think of all the money being poured into the country for new auto plants and all of the other things, AI. So what we're doing is we're taking a relatively small portion of that, and we're going to be giving and providing it to the farmers in economic assistance. And we love our farmers, and as you know, the farmers like me because based on voting trends, you could call it voting trends or anything else, but they're great people. They're the backbone of our country. So we're going to use that money to provide $12 billion in economic assistance to American farmers. $12 billion is a lot of money, Meryl. What do you think? Peanuts for you, though, right? Peanuts. She's a farmer of rice. This relief will provide much-needed certainty to farmers as they get this year's harvest to market and look ahead to next year's crops. And it'll help them continue their efforts to lower food prices for American families.
So Trump is admitting that farmers need a bailout. And by the way, these are the bootstrap people, the Republican Party, the party of personal accountability. I know it's difficult for farmers to take on that personal responsibility when Donald Trump is destroying their farms, but they are the ones who, in large part, elected him to break our economy, slap massive tariffs on everything, and screw them over. So there's a little bit of accountability that should come there. And of course, these farmers do need to be bailed out, but they certainly do not want to. Donald Trump is only creating a greater divide within the GOP and his base at large. I'm sure they would rather just be able to sell their soybeans than to get a bailout from Donald Trump one time that will eventually lead them high and dry when Republicans continue to make more promises. But this is what they have signed up for. And Donald Trump, he's admitting to the fact that his tariffs are hurting people. And it's just a fact that he has to understand at this point, even if he doesn't want to. And clearly he understands some part of it because he was pushed on a report that 20 Republicans are expected to not seek re-election, that they are retiring, that the midterms are going to be a bloodbath. His response wasn't great.
I just have a quick question. There's at least 20 House Republicans who have either said they're going to retire or not run again. Do you have any
Democrats
concerns
also.
about the
And Democrats
Right.
also.
Do you have
Well,
any?
why don't you mention them? How many Democrats are going to retire? How many Democrats?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you.
But why don't you tell me the number of Democrats too? You tell me about.
Are you concerned about the narrow margins? And
No, I'm not concerned. I think we're going to do well.
Is among them, and
we will have the
National
greatest
candidate
economy.
Bruce Blakeman, who you know as well, is considering running for
We're going to
governor.
have the greatest economy in history. How many Democrats are retiring? How come you only know the Republicans but not the Democrats?
Because I came prepared to ask you a question about.
No, you're unprepared because you should know the Democrats. You're totally unprepared. Go ahead.
Why do we not know the Democrats who are planning to retire? Maybe because they haven't made up their mind yet. If I'm a Democrat and I'm thinking, this might be a tough race, or I don't even know. Like if I'm a Democrat, I'm waiting until Maybe Hakeem Jeffries becomes the speaker. There are a million things that could happen between now and the midterm. So of course you don't know how many Democrats are retiring. I wouldn't want to be a Democrat retiring right now. This is the best time to be a Democrat. Our party is being more unified every single day. Well, Donald Trump, well, he falls apart, both politically and mentally. Just take a look at these clips, one from last week, one from today. Midas touch cut them together, showing Donald Trump completely forgetting what he had to say about Pete Hegseth.
Mr. President, you said you would have no problem with releasing the full video of that strike on September 2nd off the coast of Venezuela. Secretary Hegseth now says...
You said that. I didn't say that. This is ABC fake news.
Mr. President, you released video of that first boat strike on September 2nd, but not the second video. Will you release video of that strike so that the American people can see for themselves what happened?
I don't know what they have, but whatever they have, we'd certainly release. No problem.
You said that you would have no problem releasing the full video. Are you committed to releasing the full video?
Didn't I just tell you that?
You said that it was up to Secretary Hegseth.
You're the most obnoxious reporter in the whole place. Let me just tell you, you are an obnoxious, actually a terrible reporter, and it's always the same thing with you. I told you, whatever Pete Hegseth wants to do is okay with me.
Oh my God. The most obnoxious reporter. Maybe you're just an asshole, right? Maybe she could possibly be doing her job and you're just an asshole. Have you ever considered that? Donald, I know you haven't, but I think that's more likely the reason. But he completely forgot. You're the president. You're the only person who can say that that would happen, that video would be released. I guess Pete Hegseth could, but he never would. And so did you just forget? Did you not realize? It's funny that Trump sees this and his anger towards the media constantly as like, well, I told a lie, and you repeating that lie that I was going to release this video is your fault because you should have known that I was lying, and then so you shouldn't have reported it. That's what he's saying. When I tell a lie, and you report it as if I'm going to do it, when I make a promise and you report that promise and I know I'm going to break that promise, it's your fault because of course I was going to break that promise. Donald Trump just wants the media to always believe that he's going to screw up and fuck up, and he's going to, so maybe we should. But this is just the continuation of what we already know. Donald Trump's assault on the press, his attempts to make us believe that they are in fact the enemy of the state, when it is Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth carrying out these illegal acts. And I also think that we have to raise the important point that Pete Hegseth, a week after this double tap strike, a week after these illegal orders, a week after Pete Hegseth committed murder, he decided, we want some new rules at the Pentagon. We want to be able to decide who can and cannot report. And that included, because they didn't want to follow his guidelines, restrictions on the ability to do real journalism, that included even the Fox propaganda outlet. They said this is too much. Pete Hegseth deciding that reporters could only ask questions that he approved, that they had to have a babysitter walk them around. And why did Pete Hegseth do that? It's important to keep in mind. It was more so than just that Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth like to attack the press. They're not worried about what's real and what's not, what's true and what's false. They're worried about the perception. The public, right? That's why the media, the mainstream media, the right-wing mainstream media, creates this kind of propaganda bubble for MAGA to exist in. Donald Trump wants an environment in which he can just lie. So Pete Hegseth was trying to create this lie. That whenever you heard leaks out of the Pentagon, leaks, Pete Hegseth, leaks war plans, Pete Hegseth, leaking this, leaking that, he wanted you to conflate that, to believe that it was the media. That the media was leaking out information that was putting our service members in harm's way. Now, of course, that's not the case. They wouldn't do so. We even remember that when the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic was pressed on sharing the text messages between Hegseth and Besson and J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel, he said, no, because this is sensitive information. I don't know what I'm even sharing. I don't know how classified it is. I don't want to put people in harm's way. So the media was not doing that. It was Pete Hegseth, but he wanted you to believe that the people putting our troops in danger were reporters doing their jobs. It's not the case. They want you to believe that. They want everybody to believe that. They want us even to believe that we are in harm's way, that we should stop speaking out. I can promise you, I'm not going to do that. And I know who else isn't. Someone who I'm actually in a couple of hours going to see, and I'm very excited about that, is Senator Mark Kelly. You should listen to everything he had to say.
You know, the administration wants to silence you, and you're not going to be silenced?
Well, they're clearly in violation of my First Amendment rights. I said something, that was lawful. It was pretty simple. It was a message that I felt members of the military at this time, when you consider who this president is and who the Secretary of Defense is, they needed to hear, this pretty basic message. And there wasn't anything wrong with it. I didn't expect this response from the president. But he's trying to silence me, but he's not silencing me. I'm still speaking out. I still am going to do my job every single day, regardless of whether this president wants to kill me, hang me, execute me, or shut me up. I'm not going to shut up. Litigation, coming from me, it's not like in my nature, to do that. I'm going to respond. I've got, a legal team that will respond to whether it's DOD or DOJ forcefully, because they're in the wrong here. And I think people know it. And it's kind of a ridiculous proposition that because of something I said, they want to either kill me or now prosecute me under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It's ridiculous.
And I want to get back to the strike again quickly. It seemed last week, on the heels of this Washington Post double tap report, that there was a groundswell, an uprising from Republicans who were just as angry as Democrats over what they had read. That seems to have died down a little in the wake of the briefing of Republican leadership officials who spoke with Admiral Bradley, who came out of that briefing and had positive things to say about his decision-making process. When you have spoken with your Republican colleagues, what sense are you getting from them? Does it align with what they're publicly saying at this point?
Well, maybe you're hearing from different folks publicly than the individuals that I've spoken to. I've spoken to Republican colleagues that still have serious concerns about how this strike was conducted and whether or not it was lawful.
That is what courage looks like, and that is what everyone in our government should be modeling. We have been so fortunate that Mark Kelly has not only been so unafraid in standing up to Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth, but making it clear that it is, and I don't want to take away from what Mark Kelly has done, but he's made it obvious it's not that hard, right? It's the right thing to do, which usually is, but it's not difficult. Mark Kelly is staring down the threats and the attacks and then the bullshit, and he's saying business leaders of institutions, media figures, it's not that difficult. Do your job, stand up to Trump, have a backbone, have a spine. That is what we need. I'm glad that we are seeing that from Mark Kelly. I am excited to talk to him tonight. And if you want to support the work that we're doing on this show to stand up to Trump, if you want to see that conversation soon, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Also, if you want to support the show in another way, you can watch my newly released interview with Gavin Newsom. Going to be linked below and right here. It's a great video. I hope you check it out. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.